Hello there! So, I haven't done a haul in a while. I haven't made a conscious effort of a book buying ban or anything like that, but I just realised I was buying such a large quantity of books each month that I wasn't valuing the books I was getting. It's like I can look on my shelf even now and see a load of books and think, when did I get that? I don't remember owning that. And I think that's really bad because you should, treasure every book you get. So anyway, I've tried not to do like it, because normally I'll do a big shop on like Book Depository or something on payday. I haven't done that necessarily this month, but books have still creeped in. Well, it's been about 2 months actually, so, but yeah, I haven't necessarily done as well as maybe I would have intended, but I've just picked up books here and there. I did do one order on the Book Depository because I am a weak person, but yeah, let's get into it. So, the first book is Reading Like a Writer by Francine Prose. This is actually really interesting. I've read about half of it so far and I'm really enjoying it. A lot of the time I get like writing books that are maybe memoirs or more about the sort of process of being a writer rather than the actual process of writing and the sort of nitty-gritty bits of it. And it's really interesting as well reading this because then it makes you feel like you can actually pick more up from reading books by other authors because you know what you're looking for and you know what sort of constitutes together to form a story. I generally normally avoid things like this just because I feel like it should be more about just creating and screw the rules. But you have to acknowledge that there are rules sometimes, and this has actually been really good and really interesting, and I'm finding that I'm reading much more enriching books at the moment and getting more out of them as a writer, so I'd give it a go if you're like reading and you are a writer. The title is self-explanatory. Then I got Patti Smith's Just Kids. Now this is a memoir by Patti Smith, who I don't hate me, I don't know who she is. My boyfriend tells me she's like a godmother of punk, basically. Basically just a memoir about apparently the creative process and things like that. So that'll be interesting for me. Also, that guy looks quite distinctly like my boyfriend, so that was strange, and I thought I'd get it. And he wants to read it anyway, because he's a big punky, he enjoys that, so, yeah. And I think, yeah, it'll be good. So, never mind that I don't know who she is. Then I got, now I'm not going to lie, this was a complete, I saw it on the shelf and it looked pretty book. I mean, look, it does stand out quite a bit. It is The Flame Alphabet by Ben Marcus. I've never heard of this. I literally just picked it up because it looked quite striking. I wouldn't necessarily say the cover's pretty, but it just is the kind of thing that makes you want to pick it out of a bookshop. And basically it sounds like this is about, it's sort of an alternative world where the speech of children has become toxic. So people are sort of forced to abandon their children and go into quarantine centres. But this one family don't want to abandon their daughter, so they have to make the choice of, are they willing to stay with her and, like, disappear? Like, get killed by her speaking? Or do they want to abandon her and survive? So it sounds really strange, but I think it sounds quite good and interesting. So I'm going to give that one a go. I got it from my local bookshop, which I'm trying to spend more money in, and they do have sort of these odd little books, and I thought, well, why not? I also got from there How Should a Person Be by Sheila Heti. This sounds again like a sort of memoir thing. It's about a lady who's trying to write a play. She's sort of having an affair with an artist and she's going through a bit of a transition in her life, and she ends up talking to a lot of people about how a person should be. So I think it's sort of made up of manuscripts and emails and things like that, and I just thought it'd be interesting because it's always a good question, isn't it? How should a person be? Basically, the title caught me to this one, but it does sound quite good and I think I'll enjoy it. Then I got in a charity shop Angela Carter's Bloody Chamber. This is a really bad copy of this, but it was in a charity shop and I couldn't say no. I don't know if this is short stories. I think it might be, but I might be wrong. Actually, flicking through, yes, no, it is short stories. And that's about all I know about them, but I'm trying to read more short story collections. As you know, I read recently Shortcuts by Raymond Carver, and didn't really enjoy it, so I'm trying to read more. I think this is sort of horror-y short stories, I don't know, The Bloody Chamber would suggest, and I think Angela Carter is sort of a horror-y writer, so, gonna give that a go. Then I got, this was my luxury for the time, it was Tender as the Night by F. Scott Fitzgerald in the really lovely Penguin Classics edition, which I have The Beautiful and the Damned in, and I am going to be getting The Great Gatsby in. Even though I've got a nice copy of that already, I just want them all to match. And basically, if you've read one for F. Scott Fitzgerald, you have read all of them, but he is one of my favourite authors because all of them are equally beautiful. This is basically, again, about sort of a luxurious rich couple in the 20s. I think they moved to France, and basically about the demise of their lives. What more do you need? What more do you need? Then I got At the Mouth of the River of Bees by Keege Johnson. I think that's how you say that. This is a beautiful book, by the way. I basically bought this because Mercedes from Mercedes Bookish Musings is absolutely in love with this. It was one of her best reads of the year so far, and I thought, seeing as I'm trying to get into short story collections, this is the short story collection, and she raved about it so much, I just thought I'd better give it a go. I have read about half of this, about a quarter of it, and I have mixed feelings. I'm enjoying it, but not at the same time. It's not really my cup of tea. It's sort of a short story collection. All of the stories are about animals, predominantly, and it's sort of got fantastical, surreal things happening in the stories, and I'm not really into fantastical, surreal stuff, so that's a bit of a bummer. I enjoyed the first few stories loads, especially the first one. I think it's 26 Monkeys. Yeah, 26 Monkeys, also The Abyss, was a really lovely story, and the writing in this is excellent, I'm not going to lie, even though, you know, it's not necessarily a subject I would choose. The writing's really good, and I think I'm going to get a lot out of it anyway. It's probably the short story collection I've enjoyed most out of the ones I've read, so can't complain. It's just not necessarily my cup of tea, but we'll see. I might change my mind by the end of it. I am sort of torn. At times I think I love it, at times I think I don't really get it, so it could change. It could change. Another short story collection I got a recommendation off of Mercedes Bookish Musings, because she reads quite a few short story collections actually, is You Only Get Letters from Jail by Jodie Angel. Mercy actually didn't really enjoy this, so that was a bummer. I'd already bought it when she said that, but I still thought I'd give it a go. It's basically about life in America. I think it's a very American collection, and it's apparently written from the perspective of all males, which I think is why Mercedes didn't enjoy it, she said. But I think that'd be interesting. I read mostly things that are from a perspective of females, really, and one of my novels that I was working on, I wanted to do a male voice and found it really challenging, so hopefully this will sort of give me more of an idea, especially as it's written from a woman in the voice of men, so I'm hoping to like that. The stories in there, I haven't started it yet, because the stories are a bit bigger. They're sort of 20 odd pages each, and I like sort of short snappy stories because I tend to read short stories in between novels. While I'm still reading a novel, I'll pick up a book and read one short story or whatever, but those are going to take me a bit longer, I think, so I'll save that for another time. Then I got another short story collection. I forgot about these. I got What We Talk About When We Talk About Love, which is also from Raymond Carver. I have read the story What We Talk About When We Talk About Love, and it's probably my favourite Raymond Carver so far, so I'm hoping to enjoy this more. I've read 2 stories out of it, and again, as I said, if you saw what I said about Shortcuts by Raymond Carver, I just felt like I was missing something. And with the 2 stories I've read from this, one of them I really did feel like I was missing something. One of them I found alright, so hoping to enjoy this a bit more. It's really quite thin, so it shouldn't take me long, and yeah, gonna give it a go. Then I got We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. Now, everyone knows about this book. I'm not even going to go into much detail about this. It's basically one of those books that's going around BookTube. No one really knows what it's about, but I think that's sort of intentional because everyone who's read it has said, you know, it's better to go into it blind, else anything you say about it just gives it away. So I think there's a lot of twists and turns in this, shock endings, and you don't really know who's telling the truth and who's not. So we'll see. It's basically, I think, about a family who go away every summer to a certain place, and stuff happens one summer. That's all I know about it. That's all anyone's really said about it. That's all I'm going to say about it. Meh. Then I got, this is another righty one, The Elements of Style. Now, I ordered this thinking it was going to be a book. It is a leaflet, really. So I paid quite an extortionate amount of money for a leaflet. But there we go. Again, I'm trying, you know, to get more into the rules of writing and the sort of blah, 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 you know, that stuff. So again, I think this will be quite interesting. I'm sort of, it's strange for me because I've always been like, I really don't care about verbs and metaphors and nouns and adjectives and all this. Like, you just write, and I've always been quite lucky because I've read a lot. Writing just sort of works for me, so I don't need to know the technicalities and stuff like that. But I want to improve, and I think knowing the technicalities might do that. And having a book like this apparently is really handy. I've heard in a few writing magazines and things that I've read that a lot of people have this just for reference. So, gonna give that a go. It seems quite daunting just flicking through it, but we'll see. Then I got Will Grayson by John Green and David Levithan. Shock horror. I didn't intend to pick this up. It literally just happened to be in a 3 for 10 deal at work, so I got it. Why not? As some of you may know, don't hate me, I'm not a huge John Green fan. I haven't yet read any David Levithan, though I have the Lover's Dictionary on my shelf, ready for reading. Basically, everyone seems to love this, but then everyone seems to love all of John Green. It's about a Will Grayson meeting a Will Grayson, I believe. Stuff happens because of their meeting. I find also collaboration books difficult because it's hard for me to understand how two people's voices can fit together. The only other collab book I have read is Beautiful Creatures and that whole series, and actually it's not too bad. There's not like a distinct, this is one person's voice and this is another, so hopefully this will be like that. But I think in a lot of collab books the risk you run is that there's going to be two distinct sort of voices and they're not going to work together, but we'll see. Everyone raves about it, so why not? Also in that 3 for 10 deal, and mainly the reason I started buying in that 3 for 10 deal, was If I Stay by Gail Forman. This is basically about a girl in a coma, and I believe sort of in her unconscious mind she has to make the decision of whether to die or whether to live, or stay, as it were. This has just been made into a film, and I have to say I never like film covers, and this film cover is really pretty. I really liked it. Basically, the reason I want to read this is because I'm writing a story about a girl in a coma and sort of the choices that the family has to make, not the girl, but I felt like this would sort of set the scene and be a good bit of research for me, so yes. Also in that 3 for 10, and purely because I wanted to get 3 for £10, which is foolish because 2 books would have been cheaper, but it's in a deal and you're like, oh, why not? I got When Mr. Dog Bites by Brian Conahan. This is a complete impulse buy. I bought it because it looks fun and because the title's good. But it's basically about Tourette's, so that's going to be really interesting, I think. Apparently it's quite funny. So this boy with Tourette's for some reason finds out he's dying, so he makes a list of stuff he has to do before he dies. I don't know why he's dying. I assume that the fact he has Tourette's has nothing to do with his death. It could be really weak. I just picked it up. Why not? It looks fun. What can I say? Then I got The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan. I can't really read that. Milan Kundera. That does not look like Kundera. That looks like blah 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 blah. Anyway, I don't know much about this book. I know that it's sort of on my wish list, and I saw it in a charity shop and thought I would pick it up. I have a feeling I've seen someone say recently that it's a really heavy, hard-going book and a bit pretentious, but I think it's one of those things that, like, you should read, really. I think it's all about, like, life and philosophy and stuff, so it'll be interesting. I started this video and I was determined to be able to tell you more about the books than I usually do. That's not happened. It's one of those books that just deals with a lot of big issues, and yeah, it does look quite like it could be difficult. I mean, the first line is, the idea of eternal return is a mysterious one, and Nietzsche has often perplexed other philosophies with it. To think that everything recurs as we once experienced it, and that the recurrence itself recurs ad infinitum. What does this mad myth signify? So it could be a heavy one, just a suspicion. Then I got another John Green, Paper Towns, because I saw it in a charity shop. I'm not going to go into about this because everybody already knows about this. Everybody's already read this. Again, I'm a bit sceptical because I've read Looking for Alaska and The Fault in Our Stars and was underwhelmed by both. But we'll see. Might enjoy it. You never know. Also, I got Now Is Good by Jenny Downham. I love this film, and yeah, ugly cover, charity shop. It was like $1.99. I love this film, and it always makes me cry, and it's so gorgeous, and if you haven't seen it, you should. I didn't know it was a book, saw this in the charity shop, and thought, why didn't I know that was a book? Bought it. Basically, this is about a girl who was dying of cancer, and yeah, a little like the Tourette's story, I feel. She's dying of cancer, and she's made a list of all the things she wants to do. Basically, she falls in love before she dies, and yeah, she wants to do drugs and steal things and have sex and all this stuff, and it's really touching. Like, not one to cry at films, but it always gets to me. There's a bit where she sort of says to the nurse, what's it going to be like? What's going to happen to me when I'm dying? And it just chokes me up. And there's a bit where her dad's like, you can't leave me, I need you. That is so emotional. Anyway, yeah, I started reading the first page of this, and actually it looks like it's really well written, so going to enjoy that. Then I actually got this for my birthday, and to haul it in my birthday haul is Brief Interviews with Hideous Men by David Foster Wallace. I have read about a quarter of this as well. This is a short story collection, and it's blimmin' strange. I'm not going to lie, I've never read any David Foster Wallace. Blimmin' strange. Really peculiar. I don't know if I like it. Like, I like different things, but this is just a step possibly too far. The thing that bothers me, and there's a few things that bother me, mainly is that, for example, there's one story about a depressed girl in her relationship with her psychologist in this. Constantly, if he says, she said, and then it'll be brackets, as in the depressed person, or brackets, as in the psychologist said, and it's like, I already know who's speaking, you don't need to tell me. I think that's kind of his style, I assume, because he's done it in a few of them, but it bothers me. It's like, I ended up reading and just skipping past the bracketed he said, she said, because what was the point? Also, there's like, and I think this is his thing, because in Infinite Jest I've heard this happens a lot, there's like footnotes that go on for like 3 pages, and like, actually, it didn't bother me as much as I thought it did once I started reading them, because you sort of got into the story of the footnote and kept in mind the story place you were at in the actual story, so you just flicked back and started reading that again. But I don't know, it kind of just put me off. Again, it's sort of a thing that just takes you out of the story, and I think anything that takes you out of the story is a bad thing. I mean, I like it. I'm not going to lie, I'm quite enjoying it, but there are some things that are really bothering me, and I think it might be a bit of a stretch for me. It's very, very strange. Although, there is, because Brief Interviews with Hideous Men is sort of this story that seems to run throughout, because I've read one of those sort of stories before, and there is now another story that I'm on that's called Brief Interviews with Hideous Men. And it's basically, literally just interviews with men, and they're just foul, and it's just like, but true. That is genuinely what goes through men's minds. That's why it's a problem. But yeah, it's interesting. If you want something challenging, I definitely recommend David Foster Wallace, because it is really challenging, but it's quite rewarding, and it feels like, I suppose, an interactive experience with the footnotes and whatnot, so it's alright. So that's everything. That took 20 minutes. Whoops. Maybe I did get more than I realised, but 2 months, that's not bad. Bye.